Hello and welcome to Manga Tora 96, and today we have the review of One Piece chapter 1007 titled Tanuki-san. Finally, after what feels like an eternity, in this chapter the Ice Oni virus is at long last put to rest, and I hope to God that Queen doesn't use another of those pointless viruses for the rest of the arc. Well, it wasn't all pointless, as the virus had a purpose that it did accomplish in the end of this chapter. But for how long it dragged out, the impact of the result it accomplished could as well be pointless. What it also accomplished is to really make those pages focusing on Hyogoro and the rest losing to the effects of the Ice Oni virus in the last chapter completely a waste of pages. I know nobody believed that anybody would have died, because that would have been one of Chopper's biggest failures as a doctor if it did happen, which makes those pages even more useless, as it didn't manage to create any suspense at all. If we ignore the curing of the virus in this chapter, the later half of the chapter was actually really good, with one great revelation and a big cliffhanger at the end. Moving on to the cover of this week's chapter, we have the second best clown in the series, Caesar, blowing some balloons for baby penguins. Now going into the chapter, we see some reaction of some fodder, Apu and Drake, on how Hyogoro destroyed the Oniwa Bancho leaders, as well as the Mimawa Rigumi leaders single-handedly. The most interesting reaction is from Drake, who says that he now understands why the Wano samurai are so feared throughout the world, after seeing Hyogoro's display. Which I must say that I don't share that opinion with Drake, as the Oniwa Bancho and especially the Mimawa Rigumi didn't do shit to be considered a threat. Hyogoro soloing them isn't as an impressive feat in my eyes as Drake makes it out to be. Then we again get some pointless Ice Oni virus scenes where we see how those not affected by the virus struggle to kill the infected on their requests. After that we see the whole point of what Oda was trying to do with this virus, when one Beast Pirate member asks Queen why they have to also die from the effects of the virus, on which Queen goes on the rant on how the pleasurers and waiters are useless, disposable and easily replaceable, as the pleasurers are just defects who can only laugh, and the waiters have lost the chance to become smile users, as there are no more smiles to give to them to make them stronger. No, I do agree with what Queen is saying, as everything he is saying is true, but the problem for him is that those disposable soldiers make up 97.45% of the Beast Pirates, and with Tama, who will tame the 2.5% of the smile users, that makes 99.95% of the entire crew. And with what Queen is saying and his action, he practically made so that the only ones in the Beast Pirates who are still loyal to Kaido are the 3 All-Stars and the 5 remaining Tobiropo, with the rest of the crew going to the Straw Hat's side and Tama trying to tame every smile user on Onigashima. Now the question here is how someone who is smart enough to modify himself into a cyborg, as well as others, is so stupid to not see how his words and action have screwed him and the rest loyal to Kaido over. As yes, they are individually useless, but we're here talking of over 90,000 soldiers who will now change sides, and no matter how weak they are, their number is enormous and will definitely affect the outcome of this battle in the Straw Hat's favor. After this, Chopper enters the fray by first saving Hyogoro's life and then everyone else affected of the Ice Oni virus on the performance floor. What Chopper did is actually really cool, as he didn't create an antidote for the Ice Oni virus, but rather he used the virus to create his own virus who counters the Ice Oni virus, and he made his virus the same way contagious as the Ice Oni virus. So one cannonball full of Chopper's virus is enough to spread throughout the performance floor and save everyone infected by the Ice Oni virus. Then Chopper and Queen have a bit of an argument, in which Chopper says that viruses shouldn't be weaponized, on which Queen tries to shoot him with the guns in his mouth, but the pleasurers and waiters jump in front of Chopper to be his shield. We immediately see the effects of Queen's stupid action have come to bite him in the ass. Then Marco shows up and holds Queen's neck down so Chopper can attack Queen without worries, and Chopper thanks Marco for his assist. Chopper eats the Rumble Ball and goes into Monster Point, and then he proceeds to bitch slap Queen and yell to everyone that he isn't a Tanuki, on which we have the funniest part of the chapter, where we see the reaction of characters who refer to Chopper as a Tanuki, and after they see Monster Point Chopper bitch slap Queen, they immediately feel sorry for calling him a Tanuki. The most notable characters that we see are Marco and Drake, who have been calling Chopper a tanuki. Now, will we get a Chopper vs Queen fight is yet to be seen, but thematically it will be a perfect matchup. Now, if Chopper could take on Queen one-on-one is doubtful, but with the help of Drake, Hyugoro or other characters, it's becoming more realistic. But what is even more interesting is that Chopper used his Rumble Ball so early on. Now it's possible that he overcame the side effects of not being able to move for 3 hours after using Monster Point, and he now can go multiple times into Monster Point in a shorter time span. Or what I would prefer, that Chopper shows us something new in this arc. Maybe a new form, which is stronger than Monster Point perhaps. One thing is certain, with Oda having Chopper go Monster Point so early, it will be revealed that Monster Point doesn't have any side effects on Chopper anymore, or a possible new form is coming soon. Then we have a brief scene with Momo, Yamato and Shinobu. Their current location is in the interior of the Right Brain Castle. So far nobody on Earth is coming to stop those three. Meanwhile, it doesn't sit right with Momo that he must be protected, who laments how weak and pathetic he is. He feels like he doesn't deserve the expectation that everyone has of him, which is quite good for Momo's character, that he realized this at a such young age, which will give him plenty of time to grow into a person who deserves the title of a shogun. After Shinobu tries to comfort Momo, his emotion runs so high that he transforms into his dragon form, which surprises Yamato, who mistakes him for an eel. Well, she isn't wrong on that, because Momo is certainly on the strength level of an eel right now. After that we switch briefly to see what the CP0 is up to, and there we get the biggest revelation in this chapter, and that is that at one time, when the Marines did capture Kaido in the past, Vegapunk took some of Kaido's lineage factor, or better known as the One Piece equivalent of DNA. Vegapunk used Kaido's DNA to create the artificial dragon fruit that in the end Momo ate. Now why is that such a big deal? It's a big deal because it's a confirmation that by eating a devil fruit, your lineage factor or DNA, if you will, is changed. That to me means that this is a big evidence that the theory that the devil fruits aren't natural creation, but rather something that was created sometime in the past, possibly in the void century, is true. That also means that it is false to call the smile artificial devil fruits, but rather we should call them inferior versions of the originals. What this also means is that Momo doesn't only have the genes of Kozuki Oden as his biological son, but he also has a bit of Kaido's DNA in him after eating Vegapunk's fruit. Firstly, this is quite ironic that Momo has a bit of his father's killer inside of him, but more important is Momo's potential for the future. With just the fact that he is Oden's son, Momo has the potential to become one of the strongest people in the world in the future. But now, if we take Kaido's genes in consideration, this makes Momo's potential just rise even further. So if he trains really well and tries to better himself like he said he would, Momo has the potential to be the strongest person in the world in 20 or so years. Well, maybe not the strongest, but top 5 definitely. We end the scene with a CP0 agent saying that it was fortunate that Vegapunk's fruit was a failure. Yeah, let's see 10 to 20 years if Vegapunk's fruit was indeed a failure. As much we know, Vegapunk said that the fruit was a failure, but what if he were just lying to the world government so that they wouldn't get their hands on the fruit? If it's really true that Vegapunk isn't faithfully working for the world government, which there are numerous evidence to support that theory. For the last scene of the chapter, we're in the room where the Akazaya samurai are, who have woken up after they were treated by the mysterious person. They are not sure who treated them, but Kawamatsu mentioned that the face of the one treating them was familiar. Kinemon says that they should go out and help out elsewhere on Onigashima, as the war is in full swing, when suddenly the door of the room is open, and there stands none other than the master, Kozuki Oden. We see Oden in all of his glory, and the shocked reaction of the samurai. We end the chapter. And there is a break next week, which was expected. Now for the big resurrection of Oden. Yeah, I don't believe that this Oden, as much as I didn't believe that Hyo was going to die last chapter. For the reason why this is, I don't believe why this person isn't Oden. Firstly are the legs. If you look on Oden in the flashback, he was always showing his legs. Probably because he's one of the rare characters in One Piece who does leg day. Now on a serious note, this hiding of the legs indicates to me that the person in question may be a woman. The source don't matter, as it would have made sense if the real Odin showed up and didn't have Enma and Ame no Habakiri. But what doesn't make sense is that Odin looks exactly like he looked 20 years ago. Now there's always Toki with her power, but what we saw from the flashback, she was nowhere near the flower capital when Odin died, to have sent him to the future. And even if that was the case, and Odin really traveled 20 years into the future, like Kinemon and the others did, he still would have had to have some scars on him from the boiling oil or the gunshot. But here we see that apparently Odin is just fine. That's why I don't believe that this person is actually Odin. Then who is it? First, it can't be Bon Clay, because he didn't have his Delford back then to use it on Odin, and it wouldn't make much sense to be Bon Clay for more reasons. But someone who could actually be it, it's Katarina Devon. Now at first it might sound crazy, but if you think about it, it actually could work. First of all, we do not know how the transformation ability of the Nine-Tailed Fox fruit works, but what we do know is that she can not only transform physically into the person like Bon Clay can, but that she can also transform into the clothes the character was wearing, unlike Bon Clay. Now we don't know if she has to touch someone like Bon Clay needs to transform, or if, for example, a photo or a description of someone is enough for her to transform. If that is the case, there definitely still exists Odin wanted posters out there, and Blackbeard himself knew Odin very well. As for the reason why she would even do that, it's quite simple. The Akazai Samurai are some of the biggest fighting force right now on Onigashima. Now, if I were Blackbeard, I would want that the Beast Pirates and the Straw Hats kill each other as much as possible before he would come in and take whatever he wants to take. And for that to happen, it would be great to use the Akazaya Samurai to get rid of as much Beast Pirates as possible and to wear themselves down even further, or possibly dying. As for who else it could be, maybe Onimaru, if he can transform into more forms, but I doubt it. Then someone who has a Delfruit that is superior to Bon Clay's Mane Mane no Mi. Something similar like the Kilo Kilo no Mi and the Ton Ton no Mi are to each other. As to who could have this Delfruit, maybe Hiyori, I don't know anyone else. Or this Odin could possibly be Kanjuro's drawing, so to lure the samurai into a trap, but I doubt that Kanjuro would have made such a mistake in drawing Odin, in which he would hide Odin's legs. So far the idea of Katarina Devon is the most appealing for me. All in all, this chapter was a good chapter, definitely better than last week's. This chapter had a weak beginning, a good middle part and a great ending. Hopefully Chopper's opponent stays queen. It doesn't matter if Chopper receives some help, but it will be really good for him to be involved in a fight like this. The revelation of Delfruit changing the DNA of the user was really great, and with the cliffhanger, Oda gave us a lot of room to speculate on who this Odin actually is in the next 2 weeks. And that will be all for this video. If you like this video, leave a like, leave your thoughts in the comments below, or subscribe to the channel for more One Piece content as well as other manga content, and until next time, take care.